parents take my sister on vacation instead of me, she destroys the trip and gets arrested. Now they finally see her true colors. You know that feeling when you've been screaming into the void for years, trying to make the people you love see an undeniable, horrific truth, only to be dismissed? And then, suddenly, in the most gut-wrenching way possible, they finally get it? That's my life, and this is the story of how my miracle child sister finally shattered my parents' delusional adoration, but not before putting my dad's life in unimaginable danger. For as long as I can remember, my younger sister, Lisa, has been the absolute center of our family's universe. My parents, they practically worshipped her. You see, before Lisa, my mom suffered a heartbreaking miscarriage. When Lisa came along a few years later, she wasn't just a baby, she was their miracle, a beacon of hope, a joy that healed an unspeakable pain. So, naturally, she was showered with affection, attention, everything. And me? I was just me. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved Lisa when we were kids. But as we grew, a terrifying realization started to dawn on me: Lisa wasn't just a spoiled child. She was a master manipulator, a twisted genius at playing the victim, and my parents were completely, utterly blind to it. I remember my birthday one year, I got this incredible antique pocket watch from our grandparents. It was a family heirloom, and I was so thrilled. But Lisa? She was green with envy. She kept demanding I share it. I said no, it was my gift. She even tried to badger our parents, but since it was from their own folks, there wasn't much they could do. That night, knowing I was absolutely terrified of spiders, she put a house spider right inside my pillowcase. I woke up screaming, a hairy leg crawling across my face. My parents rushed in, full of concern, while Lisa, she was all wide-eyed innocence. But later, when we were alone, she just grinned, that chilling, vacant grin, and admitted she'd done it to teach me a lesson. I was frozen. No remorse. None. Another time, I finally mustered up the courage to invite my crush, Mark, over for a movie. I was giddy, picking out the perfect dress. But the moment Mark walked through the door, Lisa accidentally spilled a whole glass of juice all over me, then laughed. I was mortified. I had to run and change, trying to hide my humiliation. And if that wasn't enough, she spent the entire evening telling Mark the most embarrassing stories from my childhood. She didn't leave us alone for a second. When Mark finally stood up to leave, Lisa, with that same smirk, told him he could do much better than me. Mark, who'd looked uncomfortable the whole time, practically fled. I just couldn't comprehend how someone could be so cruel, so cunning. Over the years, I tried. Oh, how I tried to tell my parents about her antics. But they always brushed it off, chalking it up to her being young and naive. They just couldn't see the real Lisa. I was always the troublemaker for daring to speak up. So, eventually, I just stopped. Lisa remained their golden child, and I, the straightforward one, felt like an outsider in my own home. College was my escape. I focused on my studies, got into a great school, and finally moved out. But every time I came home for breaks, Lisa made it abundantly clear that my presence was an inconvenience. She'd ignore me, interrupt me at dinner, or just avoid me altogether. She'd even mess with my stuff, borrowing things only to lose or damage them. My parents did nothing, just urged us to get along. So, I started avoiding home altogether, finding excuses to stay with friends. Truthfully, my parents didn't seem to mind. They just thought I was being independent. Lisa never had the grades for a 4-year college, so she stayed home after high school, opting for community college. Which meant she never moved out. Fast forward to today, I'm working at a multinational corporation in San Francisco, loving my life. I keep in touch with my parents, but I rarely visit. And Lisa? Zero contact. Then, the call came. My dad, he had a near-fatal heart attack. It was a miracle he survived. My mom called me, distraught, and I immediately booked a flight home. Doctors prescribed a ton of meds, insisted on lifestyle changes. Dad, bless his heart, was shaken. He wanted to spend more time as a family. I understood. My job allowed remote work, so I stayed on for a few days. But Lisa? She was deeply agitated by my presence. I tried to avoid conflict, especially after Dad's scare. We were older now, surely, she'd matured. One morning, at breakfast, Dad suggested a family vacation. It had been years since we all went anywhere together. I had reservations, but seeing how much it meant to him, I agreed. Lisa, of course, was not thrilled, but she had to go along. Dad handled all the bookings, flights, accommodation. I took my leave, told colleagues no contact. I genuinely wanted to enjoy quality time with my parents. But when we got to the airport, it happened. My ticket? Cancelled. Dad was baffled, swearing he'd booked and paid for it. We checked, out of 4 tickets, mine was the only one gone. As I stood there, utterly bewildered, I looked at Lisa. She had this sly smile on her face. That same look, the one she wore every time she pulled off one of her manipulative tricks. In that instant, I knew. It was her. She'd cancelled my ticket, probably from Dad's computer. I lost it. I started yelling, pointing at her, explaining everything to my parents. My mom, instantly, dismissed me. Your sister would never do something like that, she said, then accused me of being jealous. My dad tried to rationalize it as an airline mistake. I was utterly, completely frustrated. They still couldn't see it. Their beloved miracle child, a perpetrator of such deception? Impossible. There was nothing I could do. My flight was gone. No other flights that day. Sure, I could fly out tomorrow, but the idea of going home, rebooking, traveling alone, it was supposed to be a family trip. Plus, I dreaded the thought of sharing a room with Lisa, wondering what other schemes she had planned to make my trip miserable. Dad was initially hesitant, suggesting we all go home and reschedule. But then he started talking about how long it had been since he had a real vacation. Mom chimed in, you travel so much for work, you won't be missing out on much anyway. Their comments hit me like a punch to the gut. It felt like they wanted me to insist they go without me. So I did. I told them to go, not wanting their money to go to waste. They readily agreed. It was clear they didn't mind going on a family vacation as a family of 3. So there I was, standing alone at the airport, watching my parents and Lisa head off for their much-anticipated trip. I went back to San Francisco, not wanting to spend another moment alone in our family house. I tried to put it behind me, enjoying my leave as a solo cat-ion. I reconnected with friends, devoured books. My parents would video call, and I could see how much fun they were having. My absence didn't even register. I wasn't heartbroken about missing the trip, but it was another stark reminder of the favoritism that had always plagued our family. I just hoped, prayed, that one day, they would finally see Lisa for who she truly was. And my wish? It finally came true. A few days into their vacation, I woke up to a flurry of missed calls from my mom. My heart seized. Dad's health? I called her back immediately. She picked up, her voice trembling, deeply distressed. Something deeply troubling had happened. My parents had noticed Dad's essential heart medications were disappearing. Day by day. This was beyond alarming, he couldn't miss a single dose. They were in a foreign country, unsure if they could even get the same meds. They searched everywhere. Then, Mom went to Lisa's adjoining hotel room to borrow sunscreen. And there, tucked away in Lisa's bedside table, Mom found them. All the missing pills. It was a chilling revelation. Mom called Dad. He rushed in. All his medication, gone for days, hidden by their own daughter. I guess that's when the truth finally dawned on them. Their beloved miracle child had been intentionally jeopardizing his health, putting him at grave risk. Mom's voice quivered as she asked if they should confront Lisa. I told her no, not yet. Not until they were back home. They needed to gather their thoughts, their emotions, their evidence. Confronting Lisa now would be futile, she'd just manipulate her way out of it. But something unexpected must have happened that night, because they did confront her. I got a late-night call from my father. His voice, usually so steady, was trembling. "Lisa's in jail," he choked out. I was stunned. He recounted how, when they asked about the medications, Lisa had a full-blown tantrum. She threw things, screamed insults, her rage primarily directed at Dad. She accused him of booking my ticket, saying he should never have allowed me on their family vacation. She threatened them, if they continued their relationship with me, she'd teach them a lesson they'd never forget. The situation escalated rapidly. Someone from the hotel called the authorities. When the police arrived, she refused to calm down, even insulted them, and was taken into custody. Lisa would be released in 24 hours, but my parents were desperate to come home. They tried to reschedule their flights. That's when they discovered their passports and wallets were gone. Lisa had either discarded them or hidden them. They were stranded, in a foreign country, with no documents, no money. It was in that moment, stripped of everything, that my parents finally saw Lisa for who she truly was. My mother, who had staunchly defended Lisa for years, was now begging me for help. She was overwhelmed, shocked, distraught at the realization of her angelic daughter's true nature. I told them not to worry, that I'd send money, but they had to find their passports first. I was certain Lisa hadn't discarded them. My parents were finally realizing I had been telling the truth all along. They were so grateful for my help, despite leaving me behind. They apologized, profusely. A part of me wanted to forgive them instantly, but it's hard to shake the feeling of being deprived of their love all those years because of her. Was I wrong for not forgiving them immediately? For feeling that they finally got a taste of what it was like, and now they came crawling back? Update 1 * every day, my parents called with updates, and I grew more anxious. After Lisa was released, my parents threatened to call the police again if she didn't return their passports. Faced with that, she finally revealed where she'd hidden them. Back home, they confronted her, making it clear she needed to gather her things and leave. They had reached their breaking point, finally realizing the depth of her manipulative and harmful actions. They feared she'd jeopardize Dad's health again. This, of course, triggered another screaming match. Lisa hurled accusations, expressing her anger and resentment. She didn't want to share them with anyone, claiming they'd pushed her to the brink by inviting me on the trip. She insisted they disown me, saying she was more than enough for both of them. It was then, I think, they truly grasped the depths of her jealousy. They tried to placate her, but she kept yelling. In a fit of desperation, she screamed that she would tell everyone they had neglected and mistreated her as a child. She was going to accuse them of parental negligence. Then, she threatened to go to the police and make false statements if they continued to ask her to move out. This genuinely terrified my parents. Fabricated allegations would ruin their reputation, especially as respected doctors in our community. In the past few days, Lisa made their lives a living hell. When she found out they were talking to me regularly, she exploded, breaking dishes in anger. She started stealing their car keys, hiding them, making it impossible for them to get to work. Just tonight, my mom called me in tears. During dinner, Lisa had a tantrum because my mom wouldn't cook for her, saying she was tired. Lisa went on a rampage, breaking furniture, then blasted music so loud my parents couldn't sleep. The situation was spiraling, taking an enormous toll. I was worried she might pose a real threat. I couldn't even go home, it might trigger her further. I was doing my best to persuade them to consult a lawyer. The legal route seemed the only way to protect them and bring peace back. Update 2 * as many of you predicted, with Lisa's escalating antics, it was bound to happen. One night, during a huge fight, she came at my parents with a knife. This terrified them. They called the police. The officers swiftly took her into custody, arresting her on charges of assault. With Lisa finally in custody, my parents decided it was time for a permanent solution. They consulted an attorney, who advised them on the legal process for eviction. They filed a formal eviction notice. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary for their safety. They didn't want to press further charges, they just wanted her out. They bailed her out, handed her the formal notice, explaining exactly why and when she needed to leave. They did everything by the book so Lisa couldn't challenge it. Next, they went to court with their lawyer to start the eviction process, essentially, filing a lawsuit against their own daughter. It was incredibly hard on them. They felt so sad, so guilty, but completely out of options. The court finally issued an official order. Lisa had to leave. If she didn't, they'd have the legal right to force her out. Lisa is due to be out by next week. My parents can finally breathe a sigh of relief, knowing they've taken a crucial step towards reclaiming their home and their peace. It's been an incredibly tough road, but they're hopeful things will get better. I've stayed in touch throughout this ordeal, and I'm bringing them here, to San Francisco, for a few weeks. They desperately need a break, a change of scenery, and some time away from all the stress Lisa caused. Plus, it'll be a chance for us to reconnect, to heal, and for me to support them however I can. Update 3 *. I've received hundreds of comments, and it's taken me some time to go through them all. Many of you suggested we consider getting Lisa checked out for mental health issues. The thing is, she's an adult. We can't force her into anything against her will. And with her sudden violent outbursts, we don't want to push her and make the situation even more complicated. As I mentioned, my parents flew down to San Francisco. They're here to decompress after everything they've been through. Last night, as we sat around my dining table, they started to open up. Their voices were laced with humility, with such deep regret. They admitted they had been blind to Lisa's true nature all these years, and they begged for my forgiveness. My father expressed his remorse for not heeding my warnings. He said they never expected Lisa to turn out this way, that they were utterly unable to see through her charming facade. My mother echoed his sentiments, acknowledging the gravity of their mistake in dismissing my concerns. Her voice trembled as she voiced the pain of realizing how they had failed me by favoring Lisa. I told them I appreciated them taking the first step. And then, I shared. I recounted several painful memories, the years of torment I'd endured because of Lisa. My parents listened, absolutely shocked and dismayed at the extent of what I had suffered alone. They acknowledged my pain, expressed regret over the isolation I'd felt in my own family. They explained how their favoritism towards Lisa had clouded their judgment, how they'd never expected to get pregnant with her, always considering her their miracle baby. With such sincerity, they begged for my forgiveness for all those lost years. It was a bittersweet moment. I had always wanted their acknowledgement. It wasn't an ideal way to mend our relationship, but it was a turning point, bringing honesty and clarity to our family dynamic that we desperately needed. For the first time in years, we were truly acknowledging the issues that had plagued us. I told them it would take time to trust them again, and we all agreed to work through it, together. For now, I plan to make the most of the time we have, here, in San Francisco. Update 4 *. As the days passed, my parents and I spent more and more time together. Exploring the vibrant streets, enjoying leisurely meals, simply relishing each other's company. It's been quite a journey, reconnecting, rebuilding the bonds that had been frayed by years of favoritism and denial. I've come to understand that their decision to seek solace with me wasn't just about getting away from Lisa, it was a deep desire to rebuild the family they had almost lost. They needed a fresh start, and honestly, so did I. My parents and I have since discussed what to do about Lisa. She's currently staying at one of her friends' homes. We can't just abandon her, despite all the turmoil she's caused. As parents, my mom and dad feel a profound sense of responsibility, even if her actions have been unforgivable. We've come to terms with the fact that her behavior might not just be willful mischief, but indicative of deeper issues. We plan to explore the possibility of a mental health evaluation to better understand her condition. But since Lisa is an adult, we can't force her into it. We need to find a way to encourage her to seek help voluntarily. My parents plan on reaching out to Lisa once they're back home, to see if she's open to a discussion. I won't be contacting her, she still holds a strong grudge against me, and I'm trying not to worsen the situation, for the sake of her mental health. Considering the past incidents of aggression and violence, I've encouraged my parents to meet her in a public place, so she'll be forced to control her emotions. Our primary goal is for Lisa to grasp our perspective, and most importantly, to recognize the deep love and concern we still hold for her. It's not about assigning blame anymore. It's about trying to come together as a family, finally, and address the issues that have strained us for far too long.